This video will show you how to replace the front lower control arm on a Ford Transit-250. This is part of the front steering and suspension located behind the front wheel. Let's get into it. After the replacement of this part, you will want to get yourself a four-wheel alignment. Okay friend, let's get started on our job. Safely raise and support the front end of the vehicle so your front wheel's off the ground. Now once we've done that, we're going to be using a 21mm to remove all 5 of our lug nuts. Then we can remove that wheel. Let's set that aside. Now that we have the wheel out of the way, let's have a look down along the bottom of our control arm where it connects to our steering knuckle and lower ball joint. We'll use a 30mm socket to remove our mounting nut. Just a quick inspection of that mounting nut will set it aside. Once we have that off of there, we need to separate the ball joint from that lower control arm. Obviously, we don't want to cause any damage to the ball joint. If you were using a pickle fork, you could try coming in between here. You're going to, at minimum, cause damage to the boot, potentially the joint itself. With that said, I'm just going to use a ball joint puller here. We'll carefully put this in position. Now on this particular puller, I do want to try to squeeze my ears together up against the control arm. So I'm just going to install a small clamp here. It really just depends on your tool in particular what you have to do. Now we'll just take a prying device. We're coming down through the slot on our control arm so we can carefully pull down. Once you have that pulled down and away, we want to make sure we separate this. For that, I'm just taking hold of the steering knuckle. I'll pull it aside and make sure I'm not causing any damage to anything. Let's make our way towards the inboard side here where the control arm connects to our subframe. So as we're looking at where the control arm meets the subframe, we can see some of the hardware, but we actually have to remove this entire beam that leads towards the front to gain access to the forward hardware and give us a little bit more access for the removal process of this. Let's dislodge this plastic panel. Now we don't necessarily need to remove the entire thing all the way across the vehicle. We're working on one side of the vehicle, so this is where we're going to focus. Now as I look straight up along this area, I can see the plastic panel is mounted with a 10mm bolt. I'll just come straight up through here. There's that mounting bolt. Now that I have that broken free, we're along the outboard side, lower aspect of the bumper cover. We have a couple of 10mm bolts here we can start removing. There's that one. Let's get this one right here. Let's carefully take hold of this. We're going to give it a wiggle and we should be able to shift it down. Now, as we look straight forward, we can see where this beam has 4 13mm mounting bolts holding it in place. Let's remove all 4 of these. I like to keep one in, just a couple threads, while I continue on to the rest of the hardware along the rear of this. Now, all 4 of these mounting bolts will look the same. You don't need to worry about mixing them up. This upper bolt will be one of the ones that I leave in place here, so I'm just starting it in a few threads. I want to prevent this from falling down. Now let's follow this all the way down to where it connects to the subframe close to the lower control arm. We have 2 13mm bolts here. Let's make sure this does not fall down and potentially hurt us. We got movement. Start moving this down. Once we're below this area, we can slide it forward and away from our subframe. Let's set that aside. With that out of the way, we have clear access to the forward hardware of our lower control arm. We'll use a 21mm to start loosening this mounting bolt. There's our bolt. As you can tell, somebody has applied some anti-seize to this, which is helpful for us. For now, I'm going to remove it. A quick inspection. I like to start it back in just a little bit. This is going to prevent this from falling. Let's make our way to the rearward hardware next. Rearward hardware, 21 millimeter as well. This bolt comes up through our subframe, through the control arm, the other aspect of the subframe, and then it goes into the actual frame of the vehicle itself. To get this out of here, I'm just using a wrench over the bolt itself so I can pull it out. Typically, you could pull this out by hand. Now, since I have the wrench on here, I can continue on, carefully prying it out of position. A thorough inspection of our mounting bolt will set this aside. So we're holding onto the control arm. We can flex this around. I want to prevent it from falling while I finish removing that forward bolt that we had started back in. Let's go ahead and take hold of this control arm. We'll pull it out of position. There it is, friend. Now, prior to installing any part, we're going to make sure we clean and inspect our mounting area. So we're looking at the subframe. I'm using a wire brush for this. I just want to make sure nothing's rotted and weak to the point that it won't hold my control arm properly. Now we can install our brand new front lower control arm. Let's carefully get this in position. I'm going to be starting with my rearward hardware. I've already cleaned my mounting hardware, so let's get this control arm in position. As for the rear hardware, we need to make sure the bushing is straight up and down so the bolt aligns. Start banging this in. Obviously, I still have to make my adjustments in the front and at that ball joint, but for now, we'll stay here. We should be able to align this bushing. Now you can flex this. If you need more leverage, you can use a 21 millimeter with an extension down at the bolt head. We'll pivot this as necessary. We're going to start this in a couple threads, but leave it loose. Let's pause here. We're making our way to the forward hardware next. In this area here, we'll just try to flex this into the proper positioning. We have our mounting bolt already. A couple light taps with a rubber mallet if necessary. We'll start it in, leave this loose as well. Let's make sure we do not cause any damage to our ball joint or boot. We need to gently apply upward pressure on the control arm. We want this to be at the original ride height position. It only needs to come up just a little bit here. After completing that, it's time to start snugging and torquing each piece of mounting hardware. When we snug each of these bolts, we're going to be torquing each of them to 203 foot-pounds. Now we can release pressure from under the control arm. Once again, we're just making sure we do not cause any damage to our ball joint or boot. Now we have the hardware that holds the control arm in place. We're not attaching the ball joint stud yet. Let's continue on with our structure support bar, making its way from the front towards the rear there. So we'll start our cleaning up along the front. I'm using a wire brush. Now have a quick look at this. You can see that I can move this up and down. Inside of this area is where our threaded ports are. So we will have to have this aligned. Now that support bar will go in between these two areas. It's going to be sandwiched in between. So I'm going to make sure I clean this. I've got my wire brush. We'll just get right in between. And then double check everything else here. This is looking good. Let's make our way towards our subframe. In this area we have our two mounting bolt ports. Let's make sure that's in good condition. Now let's just have a quick look at this. This would be the forward side. A quick wipe. That looks good. Rearward side, this is where the mounting bolts would come up and through, and the subframe would sit in the middle. Quick wipe, close inspection. That looks good as well. We'll make any adjustments as necessary. I'm just going to use a rubber mallet, a couple light taps rearward. Let's carefully flex our bumper cover so we can swing this into position. We're being aware of pinch points. Now, as I mentioned, this needs to go on the rearward side of this plate, but on the forward side of the next plate. Make your adjustments as necessary. Now that I have this so it's aligned, I am in between the areas that I need to be. I have my mounting hardware. I'm going to go ahead and start in the lower hardware here. We'll continue on to the next two pieces just above. Now here's where we can make our adjustment. Now let's pause with this hardware. We still need to snug it and torque it, but I like to start in the rearward hardware as well. Make our adjustments here while that's still loose. All pieces of hardware are started in. Let's snug and torque these first, then we'll make our way back to the front. I'm going to torque each of these to 18 foot-pounds. As for the forward hardware, we're going to bottom these out and then we're going to torque them to 41 foot-pounds. Double check to make sure that's properly secured. It should not move around in any way. Now, as far as our plastic shield, we need to make sure it goes up and above our bumper cover. We're going to start pressing this in. We do have one area with a mounting bolt up here. We have an alignment tab as well, which needs to fit into its corresponding spot. Once you have that in place, go ahead and start in that mounting bolt. As far as this is concerned, we can snug this, and then we'll continue on to the forward hardware as well. So I've got my mounting bolts. Let's get this started in here. So we're along the outer edge here. We've removed two mounting bolts. Let's go ahead and start them both in. Once they're both started in, we'll snug them. Now we'll carefully bring down the control arm so we can align our ball joint stud with that control arm port. We'll safely raise this up. I'll just give this a wiggle, it should settle in. Now we have our ball joint mounting nut for along the bottom. Let's get this started in position. We'll start this on, bottom it out, and then I'm going to torque it to 159 foot-pounds. Once you have the wheel in place, go ahead and start on all 5 of your 21mm lug nuts. You're going to bottom them out in a crisscross manner. Once you have the wheel back on the ground, torque each one of the lug nuts to 148 foot-pounds. Now I have the wheel back on the ground. Let's go ahead and torque each one of our lug nuts to that 148 foot-pounds. Torqued. Okay, friend, we finished the installation. Now the next thing we have to do is make our way inside the passenger compartment. You're going to take your vehicle for a road test down to your local alignment shop. Thanks for watching.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.